Okay, today we're going to tackle a really difficult but super important topic. What actually happens when someone gets accused of animal cruelty? We're going to use California law as our case study to break down the whole process, right from the first accusation to the fight to get out on bail.
It's a nightmare scenario for anyone with a pet. 1 minute, everything's fine, and the next, you're smack in the middle of a criminal investigation. The moment law enforcement gets involved with your animal's welfare, things can escalate, and they can escalate incredibly fast, leading to some really serious legal trouble.
So to really get a handle on this, we're going to walk through it step by step. We'll start with the human side of it all, then dig into the specific laws, see what happens from the arrest to the booking, look at the potential penalties, and finally get into why bail is so critical.
Right, so let's start with the human element. It's so easy to hear about a case like this and jump to conclusions, but honestly, these situations are almost never just black and white. An accusation of animal cruelty is overwhelming, and it's really important to understand what might be going on behind the scenes.
And this is a really key point. Good people can end up in terrible situations. A charge doesn't always mean someone had bad intentions. It could be anything from a misunderstanding with a neighbor to someone just not having the money to provide the right care, or even a total accident that just got misinterpreted. So, keeping that human side of things in mind, let's switch gears and look at the law itself. How does California actually define animal cruelty, and how do they prosecute it?
Well, the big one is Penal Code 597. And let me tell you, this law is incredibly broad. It covers pretty much every animal you can think of. Pets, farm animals, even wildlife. The phrase to focus on here is unnecessary pain or suffering. That wording gives prosecutors and police a ton of leeway in deciding whether to bring charges. And the law kind of splits into two main categories. On one side, you have intentional cruelty, purposeful, malicious acts of harm. But then you have this other, much broader category for neglect and mistreatment. And this can cover things like not providing enough food or a proper shelter. The thing is, even if you didn't mean to, neglect can still land you in serious trouble if it leads to an animal suffering.
All right, so what happens next? Let's say a report has been made, and now law enforcement is knocking on your door. How does this all play out in the moment?
Things move fast. Deputies respond, they assess the animal, they document the whole scene with pictures, they talk to witnesses. Now, their number one priority in that moment is the animal's safety, so they often play it safe. If they believe there is what's called probable cause, an arrest is made, just like that, and the person is taken to jail for booking. Once that arrest happens, you are officially in the legal system, and the potential consequences are no joke. In fact, one of the first things you'll run into is a weird-sounding legal term that can have a massive impact on your case.
And that term is a wobbler. In California, a lot of animal cruelty charges are wobblers, which means the prosecutor has the power to decide if it's going to be a less serious misdemeanor or a much more severe felony. And that choice depends on everything: how badly the animal was hurt, if it looked intentional, and the defendant's criminal record.
And the difference between those two charges is just staggering. As you can see, a misdemeanor could get you up to a year in county jail. But if they charge it as a felony, that jumps to a possible 3 years in prison. And the fines, well, they are huge either way.
Just let that number sink in. $20,000. And that's the maximum fine for a misdemeanor. This is not a slap on the wrist. A financial hit like that can absolutely change your life.
So, this brings us to the most immediate challenge for anyone who's just been arrested and booked: getting out of jail. And that's where the bail process comes in.
Now, bail amounts are set based on how serious the alleged crime is. And as you can see here, even a neglect charge could have bail set anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000. For intentional cruelty, it could be double that. I mean, these are huge sums of money that most people just don't have sitting around.
So why is posting bail so incredibly important? Well, it's about way more than just getting out of a jail cell. It's about keeping your entire life from falling apart. It's about being able to keep your job, take care of your family, and, this is critical, having the freedom to actually work with an attorney to build your defense.
And this quote, wow, it really drives home the human cost. The social fallout from an animal abuse charge can be instant and brutal. People can judge you, react emotionally, long before any of the real facts come out. Getting out on bail is that first essential step toward managing not just a legal case, but the court of public opinion too.
And so we end up right back where we started, with a really difficult question. In the eyes of the law, where is that line between a tragic mistake and a punishable crime?
As we've seen, the answer is almost never clear, and the consequences for getting it wrong are just incredibly high.